You place the black Sharpie dot against the rim of the saucer, aligning it exactly with the ceramic handle. You do not press hard. You do not need to. The mark is faint, but it will hold long enough. You leave the kitchen. You walk to the hallway closet to retrieve your coat. The door clicks shut behind you. You count 4 seconds in the quiet space between the latch falling and the floorboard settling. You turn the handle. You open the door. You step back across the threshold. Your eyes drop immediately to the table. The dot is no longer aligned with the handle. The cup has rotated, not dramatically, not tipped over, just turned 15 degrees clockwise. You did not bump the table. You did not lean against it. You were gone for exactly 7 seconds. You look at the Sharpie mark. You look at the handle. The geometry is wrong. You feel the quiet, cold weight of a pattern that has already outpaced your attention. You do not panic. Panic implies surprise. This is no longer a surprise. This is a confirmation. Go back. Let's start from when it was still ordinary. Your mornings run on a fixed axis. The kettle clicks off at 6:42. You measure the grounds with the red plastic scoop. You wait for the water to cool to the point where the steam stops rising in sharp columns and begins to drift in slow gray ribbons. You pour it over the grounds. You watch the dark liquid fill the bottom of the mug. It is a heavy ceramic piece glazed in a matte slate gray. There is a hairline chip near the inner rim on the left side, worn smooth from months of tapping a silver spoon against it. You do not drink from paper cups. You do not keep mismatched glass in the cabinet. You use this one every day. You place it on the right side of the small oak table exactly where the morning light catches the chip. You position the handle at 4 o'clock. You do this without thinking. It is a habit embedded in the muscle memory of your forearm. The kitchen is quiet. The refrigerator hums at a low, steady frequency. You pull your phone from your pocket, check the time, and walk to the living room to answer the first emails. The coffee cools. The room stays still. The mug sits exactly where you left it. The handle points away from the wall. The day begins. You do not notice anything wrong. You are simply living inside a routine you have built over 3 years, and routines are meant to disappear into the background. They are meant to run on their own so you can focus on everything else. You come back to the kitchen 20 minutes later to rinse the scoop. The coffee is still there, untouched, a thin ring of condensation already forming on the underside of the handle. You set the scoop in the sink. You turn back to the table. The mug is no longer at 4 o'clock. The handle has shifted. It points closer to 5 now. You pause. You scan the room. Nothing is out of place. The blinds are closed. The chairs are pushed in. You consider the table's surface. You remember a slight dip near the back leg, a flaw in the wood that causes liquids to migrate if left for hours. You calculate the angle. You realize the base of the mug might be slightly uneven, allowing it to roll millimeter by millimeter as the temperature drops and the ceramic contracts. It is a plausible explanation. It relies on physics, not speculation. You accept it. You reach out, take a sip, and note the bitterness of cooled grounds. You do not dwell on it. You do not need to explain the universe every time a minor detail shifts. You do not think about it again for 11 days. On the 12th morning, you return to find the handle at 7 o'clock. You left it at 4. The table is level. You check it with a phone app that measures surface angles to 2 decimal places. The reading is flat. The shift is no longer explainable by contraction or gravity. You stand in the doorway and watch the empty space where your coffee sits. You have 2 options. You can stop leaving the room until you finish the cup, preserving the illusion of control by removing the opportunity for movement. Or you can begin documenting it, accepting that something is happening in the spaces you are not watching, and trading your quiet mornings for a system of observation. You do not choose the first option. Closing yourself in the kitchen feels like surrender to a problem you do not yet understand. You choose to document. You buy a fine point pen and a small notebook. You begin drawing the exact angle of the handle before you step out of the room. The cost is immediate and quiet. The morning no longer flows. It fractures into intervals. You are no longer drinking coffee. You are running an experiment. You tell yourself it is temporary. You tell yourself you will stop once the data reveals a mundane cause. You open the notebook. You write the date. You draw the first mark. The notebook fills quickly. Tuesday, 3 o'clock to 6. Wednesday, 4 o'clock to 11, a shift of nearly 90 degrees while you were in a meeting. Thursday, the mug is rotated counterclockwise while you take a shower. You return with water still on your neck, towel draped over your shoulders, and find it pointing toward the sink. The movement does not follow a single rule, but it does follow a structure. It never flips upside down, it never slides to the edge, it never tips, it only rotates. The angle varies between 15 and 45 degrees. The direction alternates without pattern. The context changes, but the signature remains identical. It is not random. Randomness scatters. This organizes. You begin to see the underlying logic. The cup is always moved to a new position, but never to one it has occupied that morning. It avoids repetition. It occupies space methodically, as if mapping the perimeter of the table. You stop looking for bumps, drafts, or uneven legs. You stop blaming memory. You sit at the counter and read the notebook from the beginning. The entries are clean. The times are precise. The angles are recorded with quiet accuracy. You close the cover. You place your hands flat against the wood. You ask yourself the question that has been waiting behind the data since day 3. It is not what is doing this. It is what does it want from the space it keeps claiming. You spend an afternoon researching sleep-related motor behavior. You read clinical summaries of proprioceptive drift and micro-movements during states of divided attention. You learn that the brain often automates familiar actions, adjusting objects by millimeters while the conscious mind is engaged elsewhere. You realize you might be the one moving it. You might be leaning against the table as you pass. You might be reaching for your phone and brushing the base without registering the contact. The explanation is intelligent. It accounts for the rotation. It accounts for the quiet nature of the shifts. It does not require anything impossible. You exhale, your shoulders drop. The tension that has lived behind your sternum for weeks begins to loosen. You close the laptop. You stand up. You walk to the kitchen. You decide to work from the dining table today. You will not leave the room. You will keep the mug in your line of sight. You will test the theory. You set the mug at 4 o'clock. You open your laptop. You type 3 sentences. You glance at the screen. You look down at the mug to take a sip. The handle is at 9 o'clock. You did not blink long enough for time to pass. You were looking directly at it. You were not touching the table. You were not standing. The movement happened in the space between your eyes, shifting from the keyboard to the ceramic. The explanation is reasonable. The cup does not care. It was not you. It was never you. The realization does not arrive as a shock. It arrives as a quiet recalibration of the room you are sitting in. The pattern has breached the boundary of absence. It no longer requires you to leave. It operates within your field of vision, exploiting the blind spot created by a single shift in focus. You understand that documenting it will not make it stop. It will only give you more pages to read while the same movement repeats. You face a choice with no clean exit. You can pack the mug away, remove it from the house entirely, and surrender the habit that has anchored your mornings for 3 years. This costs you a piece of your routine, a small but consistent thread of normalcy you have relied on to start your days. Or you can place the mug in the center of the table, sit directly across from it, and refuse to look away until it moves or until you accept that looking will not change anything. This costs you the illusion that observation equals control. Both paths require you to give up something you have taken for granted. The pressure is quiet but absolute. The morning sun is rising. The room is warming. You know that if you leave the table now, the cup will shift again before you return. You will not be gathering data. You will only be delaying the acknowledgement. You do not hesitate. You clear the center of the table. You place the slate gray mug down. You align the handle at 4 o'clock. You pull your chair back, you sit, you rest your hands in your lap, you lock your eyes on the ceramic. You do not plan to blink. You do not plan to look at your phone. You will sit until the movement happens or until you understand that sitting changes nothing. You lean forward. You begin to watch, you watch. The minutes pass in slow, heavy increments. The refrigerator cycles off. The light shifts across the floorboards, your eyes dry, you blink quickly, deliberately, returning your gaze to the exact center of the glaze. Nothing moves. The handle stays at 4. You continue watching. An hour passes. Your neck aches, your posture stiffens. You do not shift your weight. You do not stand to stretch. You hold the position because breaking it would mean admitting you were waiting for a signal that will not come on your terms. 2 hours. The coffee cools completely. The surface reflects the window, dull and still. You watch. The movement does not happen. You realize with a quiet and absolute clarity that it will not happen while you are performing this exact act of attention. The immediate result is nothing. The room does not change. The light does not shift. The cup does not turn. The cost is the realization that your vigilance was the condition that paused it. By watching, you have forced it into stillness. You have traded the morning for a silent standoff. You stand up. You push the chair back, you walk away, you do not look back. You know exactly what you have given up. You will not get the routine back. You have broken the cycle by refusing to participate in it, and in doing so, you have accepted that the cycle will resume the moment your attention leaves the room. You move through the rest of the day without returning to the table. You make tea in a glass, you work from the couch, you avoid the kitchen until evening, you tell yourself it is temporary, you tell yourself you are simply testing a boundary. But as the hours pass, the notebook on the counter begins to read differently. You think of the first shift, the one you blamed on the table's dip. You think of the second, the one you explained with sleep-related motor drift. You think of the afternoon you sat and watched, believing that observation would force the truth into the open. None of it was a mistake, none of it was you. The pattern was never reacting to your absence, it was never responding to your presence. It was simply continuing. You recontextualized the quiet moments you dismissed. The slight drag of the ceramic base you heard but did not hear. The way the saucer always sat a fraction closer to the edge. The consistent avoidance of repetition. You see the shape of it now. It does not want to be seen. It does not want to communicate. It does not care about your notes, your Sharpie marks, your hours of staring. It operates because operation is its state. You sit in the living room as the evening light fades into the walls. You do not feel fear. Fear requires a threat. This is not a threat. It is a fact. You will not find a reason for it. You will not find a way to stop it. You will only find yourself adjusting to the geometry of a room that is no longer entirely yours. Something is not moving the cup to disturb you. It is moving the cup because that is simply what it does. You are the one who decided it was a message. The next morning arrives without fanfare. You do not take the slate gray mug. You use a plain white glass instead. You pour your coffee. You place it on the counter. You turn to leave. You stop in the doorway. You do not look back at the counter. You look at the small oak table in the kitchen. The slate gray mug sits exactly where you left it. The handle points directly at the center of the room. It is facing you. You did not move it. You did not touch it. You know with a quiet and unshakable certainty that it will not move again today. It does not need to. It has already placed itself where it wants to be. You walk out of the room. You do not close the door. You leave it open. You know the space is still adjusting. This level of quiet observation is a heavy weight to carry, but it's also the only thing keeping your own baseline intact. If you see yourself in this story, if you've ever blamed a shifted object on a draft or a forgotten moment, remember this. You are not the only one noticing. So between the Sharpie marks and the empty table, which moment of quiet confirmation felt most familiar to you? And more importantly, are you ready to watch what happens in the exact second your attention breaks? Share in the comments. I'd really like to hear what you've caught. If today's video brought you clarity, hit like and share it with someone who might be quietly mapping their own routine. Your awareness today could help them see what's already moving. Thank you for staying with me until the end. Don't forget to subscribe to keep tracing the spaces between what you leave and what you find. I'll see you next time.